other hand.
Oh, gotcha. Thank you for joining me for the book club.
Yeah, my pleasure. Should we wait a little bit for people to kind of stream in?
Sure. Yeah. You're over at DSP.
Yeah, I'm in a supply closet because everywhere else is busy. So if I'm talking a little too soft, it's because of that.
Okay,
Do I
gotcha.
sound okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
Good, good.
Good. I don't think my ear thing's connected to this, but that's okay.
Mhm.
Oh, good. More people. 5 people. I see Albert in the chat. Who else is here? Magoo McGee, Anonymous, Cute, and Jeremiah Hockaday. Hi, guys.
Hey, hey.
So, Drew, you read both of these books? No,
Read
wait, you
might
just
be a
read this
strong
one.
word for the Abigail Schreier one, but I did read it one day. Everyone will have always been against this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, so yeah, you read all of this one, and you read quite a few of the highlights from this one because
Yes, I read every time I opened that book. I mean, I either read his highlight or I read something that made me incredibly angry. Um, one thing just to compare and contrast the books is that they both feature children on the cover. And as a result of that, we know that the cover of One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against Us is based on a real life thing. And I assume children are also being kept in a glass bulb, which I think is also bad. So points for Abigail on that one. Yeah,
totally. And who can say whether this sort of thing happens in the real world?
couldn't
Um,
say.
if you haven't seen it with your own 2 eyes right there, who could say? Whereas this,
Hmm. Yeah,
this is
kids are
not.
always being put in glass bulbs. Um,
Um, so what we'll do is, if anybody wants to join with us, you just scroll up to the top and click that you'd like to join in the Substack Live, and then it'll ask me to let you in. I'll let you in for a little bit, and then we'll say, scram, scram, we need someone else.
And I may have to run off just based on alerts I'm getting at work. So we'll see how long I can hang on for.
Okay, sounds good. So if anybody wants to join, just join at any time, and we'll just start gabbing. So, babe, I preferred this one.
I also did.
You did. Okay, yeah. Um, so what I've do you want to talk about what you found moving about it, or shall I?
Could you go first? I need to attend to a message.
Absolutely. Well, Drew, I um I feel like this is like a missing journalism book of the modern time. Oh, good, someone's joining. Uh, who have we got? Is that Michael? Michael, can you hear me? No, Masha. Masha? Oh, no, that's just you again, Drew.
Hold on.
Okay, sorry. Okay. So I oh, I've got feedback on you, babe. Drew,
What's that?
there's feedback.
I don't know what to do about that.
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Is it still feedbacky?
Yeah. I'm hearing myself.
Uh, I'm so sorry, hon. I don't know what to do about that.
Okay.
Yeah. But I can just kind of briefly give my thoughts on the book, and then kind of I think that there is a true moral clarity in One Day Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This, and that's reflected in the writing. The writing is simple and efficient in a way that I think speaks to the power of the message. I think it kind of speaks to a history of kind of mealy-mouthness on Israel and Gaza that the author essentially kind of disarms throughout, where it's just like very simple, keeping things stark. And, it's a bit of his personal history and just like, seeing him, kind of struggle with like, oh, well, I want to, assimilate into North American society, and then just seeing the limitations of that when things are so lopsided and unfair is really powerful. And, it's not a polemic. I think it has a kind of a confidence in how the writing comes off. And I think a lot of the most powerful stuff for me was kind of the critiques of both kind of the art community that kind of he and I think by extension a lot of us belong in, where, he kind of gives a sense that, like, leading up to the most recent escalation in Gaza, he was kind of rewarded in kind of a identity-based liberalism where, like, he had a very trendy book, and it felt like people were very excited to have him as a diverse, kind of speaker at things, but just like how immediately the literary community and the media apparatus kind of immediately was like, okay, well, we can't say Palestine. We have to cancel this book event. We have to cancel that book event. And general discomfort around all these organizations who didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. And I think you also see that with, and I think he might write about it, Mehdi Hassan at MSNBC, where he and I believe a few other reporters were just immediately taken off the air in a way that I think can only be described as racist. Just like, oh, let's take off the people that might make people uncomfortable with how they're confronting the genocide. In fact, they're willing to call it a genocide. But there's also powerful things where he points out that a lot of the artists who have the most to lose and the least amount of status were the bravest. And I think that is also very powerful. I think a lot of it's written, I think, pretty much before the 2024 election. So, like, some of this comes off as very prescient. A lot of it comes off as like, oh, he's prescribing something that, like, little did we know at the time would come to pass with, just kind of being like, the Democrats, line leading up to the election of like, well, how much worse will it be when it's the Republicans in charge of this, but not willing to listen to the majority of their base who did see this as, unacceptable and a genocide. And as a result, kind of exhausted by the, both sides being so supportive of Israel. And, it just gets to the point where it's like, oh, he foresaw a lot of things. I think a lot of the writing about his childhood in Egypt is really interesting. You know, the book title went viral from a tweet that he made, I think maybe 2 weeks into the escalation of attacks in Gaza. And I immediately, when I finished, was like, okay, well, where can I read more contemporaneous thoughts that he had? And the answer is he's not on social media anymore, which, fair enough. I think a lot of authors, are best when they have time to synthesize and digest things. I think Ta-Nehisi Coates also kind of went dark for some time, and also like then came off with a single work, and that kind of reminds me of this. It's too bad that he's not kind of more in a open kind of discourse, but that's the case. I thought this book was great.
Yeah. When you say an open discourse, you mean you wish to interact more at the audience?
I was just trying to listen to you.
Thank you so much, Drew.
I'm sorry I couldn't stay longer.
Thank you. That was great.
You. All right, bye.
Bye. Thank you. Okay, so if anyone wants to join me, you can scroll up to the top, ask to be added, and I will let you in. And until then, I'll vamp. So I also loved this book. The thing that really spoke to me the most about it was that he faced the problem that a journalist who is also an activist at heart has to face, which is occasionally coming to the story and going, "Oh my god, the truth is really obvious and no one's saying it. Oh god. Oh god, what do I do now? I'm trained for neutrality. Fuck." And you find yourself there and you're just sort of at the edge of a cliff. And I I feel like this book should just be in every journalism school now because it's sort of one person's attempt, one person's statement about what that cliff was like. Uh, so there's a passage that really stuck out to me that I yeah. Is this it? Yeah. Um, well, let's hope so. Sorry. I think that's right. Okay. This is when he's at an award ceremony and there are activists who look like they might be causing a stir at the ceremony. Um, for the most part, it's just a constant trickle of reminders of one's place in the hierarchy. It's precisely because of this that it becomes so tempting to just shut up. Let what's going to happen to those people over there. And then, when it's done, ease into whatever opinion the people whose approval matters deem acceptable. I start to see this more often as the body count climbs, this malleability of opinion. At a re- I gave you guys the wrong setup. I'm just going to continue the quote, though. At a residency on the coast of Oregon, I read the prologue to this book a couple of days later. One of the other writers decides to strike up a conversation. I'm not a Zionist, she says, but I'm not like anti Zionist either. It's just also complicated. I have no idea what to say. I feel like an audience at a dress rehearsal. There's a convenience to having modular opinions. It's why so many liberal American politicians slip an occasional reference to concern about Palestinian civilians into their statements of unconditional support for Israel. Should the violence become politically burdensome, they can simply expand that part of the statement as necessary, like one of those dinner tables you lengthen to accommodate more guests than you expected. And it is important, too, that this amoral calculus rise and fall in proportion to the scale of the killing, so that one might always be able to say, well, we could never have known it would get this bad, but now everything has changed. It's almost refreshing, then, when one is faced with the ugliest and yet most honest face of Western apathy, the face that knows full well the scale and severity of the horror, but believes it to be absolutely justified, absolutely necessary. I know this face too. It appears on talk shows and atop opinion pieces stating, euphemistically or not, that the same world in which you can buy avocados all year round and your iPhone keeps getting more powerful and you never have to live in fear of an occupying force obliterating your family with missiles, in the world in which an insignificant group of people you'll never meet simply have to die. Um, okay, so that wasn't the one at the ceremony. We'll find that too. But as Drew was saying, the moral clarity there. I've had this conversation so many times. I'm not a Zionist, but I'm not an anti-Zionist either. Um, we're at a moment where you have to decide at least which terms you're adopting. And I've had this conversation where with people who are just so determined to hold down the middle that they can't even find it. They don't even know exactly what they're expressing anymore. Um, John Ronson, hi. Feel free to join if you like. Um, okay. Is this the one at the conference? Yes. Okay. So this part is when he is at the journalism conference, and where I think he's really facing this dilemma of the activist versus the journalist. I can't bring myself to do it, to put on the tuxedo and pick at the canapes and smile and be nice. At all costs, be nice. I can't bring myself to celebrate. I know there's likely going to be a particular politician there who, days earlier, glibly voted against even a symbolic UN resolution calling for a ceasefire. and then went on social media to post a paean to the beauty of Shakespearean sonnets. I'm afraid if I run into him, I might not be able to keep from sounding like the angry Arab man every Arab man is secretly believed to be. Nothing good can come of it, I think. Or maybe something good can come of confronting this man and people like him, people who know empathy can always be faked in hindsight, so long as the bad thing is happening to someone else. And maybe I'm too scared to find out. Those people who storm the stage are not. I hear about the protests the next day. It's the usual stuff. How rude these young people are to disrupt an evening meant to celebrate writers and writing. How this sort of inconveniencing of people's good time is only likely to turn public opinion against the demonstrators' cause. If nothing else at all, the protest sheds light on something I and most everyone in the ballroom that night probably didn't know, that the Giller Prize's corporate sponsor, one of Canada's biggest banks, held a $500 million stake in an Israeli weapons maker. A day or two later, a writer friend of mine emails asking if I'd sign an open letter. The letter calls for charges to be dropped against the protesters, for a ceasefire in Gaza, and for the release of the hostages held by Hamas and in administrative detention by Israel. I sign it, I don't think twice. It seems quite literally the least I can do. What happened at the Four Seasons feels like exactly what people should do when they believe an injustice is taking place. But the literary community, especially in Canada, isn't all that large. The letter sets off a small firestorm of newspaper articles and rival open letters. I suppose it makes sense. People were made momentarily uncomfortable at a black tie gala. Someone has to pay. Watching footage of the demonstration later, what fascinates me isn't the smattering of boos from the audience as the protesters take to the stage. It isn't even the protest itself. It's all the people in that room, so many of them either involved in or so vocally supportive of literature, who keep their heads down, say nothing, wait for it all to just be done. A room full of storytellers, and so many of them suddenly finding common cause in silence. Does anyone else relate to this? Does anyone else find themselves in this position? It does feel like it feels like an idiosyncratic position in some ways, but I feel like other people have to have related to it even metaphorically. 25 of you are here. Did anyone have an experience that relates to this? Anyone? Did anyone read the book? It's okay to say you didn't read the book, but you'd like to read the book. You could come in and say that book has a pretty cover. Make sure I'm giving you even the right instructions. What if it's not? Scroll up to the top. Oh, I see. I see someone saying there was a problem with that. Okay. I hope I'm giving you the right instructions. If I'm not, can someone just write in the chat, like, Carrie, I'm trying to do that, and that's wrong. Okay, I'll move on to, you listened to it. Oh, Albert listens to the book. Oh, okay, good, yeah, writing. There have been times at work where I've had to speak out with regard to positions, talent have that I disagreed with. The times I did not speak out felt so much worse. Mhm. Mhm. Um, yes, staying silent is more often the regret, isn't it? Not always, but Caitlin says, I guess in recent life, at the very least, I do speak out. That's good. Uh, Other people will usually join in. It makes it less uncomfortable. Yes, boy, it sure does. When you lessen it on that one person who's like having to be the mouthpiece or the scapegoat, depending on what the situation is, right? Um, I think about this a lot, like who gets hooked on particular topics and then ends up like having to be um the person who kind of, I wanna say gatekeeps, but, like, nannies, takes care of, that issue and how I'll just give you, like, a literal example. I had a friend, a white woman who people would say to me, like, "She's just so obsessed with race. She just talks about race so much." And other white people would say this to me. And I started to notice it. Oh, she does bring it up because it's affected her life a whole bunch more than the rest of us. And, like, what's coming off as irritating to you is because every time it comes up to you, you're like, "This shit again." Um, yeah, anyway, why am I talking about that? I don't know, 'cause I'm by myself and I get to talk about anything I want. Well, alright. Oh, here's the other one. Bad therapy. Why the kids aren't growing up. Now, I could talk about how much I hate this book all day. So here's how I found out about this book. Some of my sources said to me, this woman is going around and she's talking to people, but she's a transphobe. We don't know what to do. Should we talk to her? I was like, you should talk to everyone. Anyone who asks you about the science of trauma, you should talk to them. Talk to her. Um, and uh and then when her book came out, I was like, "Oh god, is this gonna be, like, some competitive title I should worry about?" And then I read it and I was like, "No. No, it is not. This is not a problem for me. This is a problem for the whole entire world that you are thinking like this." Um, oh, someone's still talking about speaking out. I wanna hear that. Uh, oh, yeah. Okay. I'm gonna read more about that in a second. Okay, uh, so So bad therapy, why the kids aren't growing up, like, could be called kids these days. It could be called I hate my children. Why did my kids have to be Gen Z? It's the worst. um, the whole book just despises therapists, counselors, like anyone who might get between you and your child and say, "Hey, it seems like your mental health isn't doing terrific." They see all of that as meddling. Um, I'm saying they because it's not just Abigail. She is a fellow at the Manhattan Institute, I believe, one of the right wing think tanks, and I believe it's that one. And so she has these connections to right wing groups that gather information from beleaguered parents who are angry at the system uh and then they provide them to people like Abigail Schreier, who anonymizes them and makes them extremely hard to track down even what the original story was. Then she relies on really bad data to form her opinions, I think. Um, did anybody read this one? I wouldn't blame you if you hadn't. I did send out like an entire spreadsheet about why it was terrible, which is probably not the way to get a person to read a book. But if anybody did, like, absolutely hop on. Or if you read her other one is Irreversible Damage. That one, surprise, surprise, is about how trans kids are having a social contagion. Social contagion comes up so much in this. Like, it really feels like a thought-stopping cliche. It's like, anything I can't explain, if it's irrational, it must be because people are telling the story, and that's all I need to know. Um, I feel like I'm now, like, seeing this in a lot of places, that it's like God of the Gaps thinking, right? It's like, I can't explain the rest of that, so it must be social contagion? It's whatever you guys are saying in private, and like, now I'm kinda looking at it and I'm like, Are you talking about friendship? You talking about friendship? Because that's not bad. Like, people can talk to one another about their subjective experiences and then say, "Oh, you're having that subjective experience? Me too. How interesting. What if we called that bubbles? We both have the bubbles. Okay. That's not going to make sense to people outside the group, but it makes sense to people inside the group. Do you get the metaphor? The metaphor could be being trans. The metaphor could be thinking a certain way about society. Like, when kids in this book like have any sort of like leftist opinions. They're reading the Marx. Oh my God, dear Lord, social contagion has come our way again. And I'm just like, are these kids allowed to hang out? Like, every time one of them tells the other about a book, it's apparently a virus. Like, when do they get to just hang out? Is that okay ever? But no, not if they form opinions of their own. The opinions must come, of course, from the parents. What's Albert saying? Our buddy Albert. I feel like social contagion is a fancy version of Elon Musk's woke mind virus. 100%. 100%. Richard Dawkins uses both terms, I would say, as near synonyms. The woke mind virus, the social contagion. So, are there any others like that? There are opposites. Like, I mean, I feel like, yeah, so social contagion we call friendship in the ordinary world. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you like it, you just call it what? Education? I guess if you dislike it, you could also call it propaganda. I mean, these are all just like ways of saying whether you like the thing or not, right? Am I losing my mind? Woke is the new religion. Oh, yes. Yes. Exactly. I really love right wingers hating on woke because it's like they can't they can't come up with a counter term. They can't be like, we're asleep. So they have to just be like, you're woke, and that's stupid. I don't want to be that. I'm anti woke. Can't say I'm sleeping. Can't say I'm just not paying attention at all. Uh, there's a guy named Colin Wright who, maybe he's watching. I follow his Substack and he follows my Substack. But, I've just started getting obsessed with him. He's one of Richard Dawkins' little fanboys. And he thinks like this, calling everything DEI now, like that's a bad thing. Totally. Totally. It's like they just learn like a bumper sticker phrase and then that's it. Cancel culture. Yep. Yeah. Cancel culture used by right wingers, but then not using that term in regards to things like Kimmel's suspension, the Dixie Chicks, Colin Kaepernick. Yep. Yeah, Colin Kaepernick, that's like an early and important one. Um, Cancel culture got me. I remember like thinking like, well, I do see that. I do kind of see that. And now I'm like, you didn't see that. you saw you saw like the death rattle of late stage capitalism. Everybody was fighting for resources and anyway. Um uh I put this book on my own list of um I called it my rebrainwashing syllabus, like books I was going to assign to myself that no one had like assigned to me, but that were, gonna just fill in like gaps in my knowledge. I've spent so much time reading shit I don't like. I didn't even really realize it. And then I think it's someone on Instagram was like, do you ever get to read something you like? I was like, oh, yes. And I do. But, this book club will help me broaden out and make sure I'm reading at least at least 50% books I expect to like. Um, and yeah, I mean, I feel like has anybody gone through like a sort of a period where you feel like you kind of anti-brainwashed yourself from the American empire? It often happens in your early 20s. You might return to it, and then everyone will accuse you of going crazy, but that's fine. My first unbrainwashing was Arundhati Roy uh, in 2002 when I heard her talk come September that was about all of the September 11th before September 11th, 2001, in which the American empire was the aggressor rather than the victim. And it's so impactful. And I immediately was like, this is going to change my life forever. And in a way, it did. It, like, basically gave me anxiety forever because once you enter the workforce, you're like, "Oh, well, fuck, America, I guess. Oh, wow. Do everything really fast. This is the game here." And you get stuck and you're not really thinking about that stuff anymore, and then you remember. Anybody else gone through this? Um, okay, Drew. Hi, Drew. I think cancel culture size and scope is rarely interrogated. For example, people getting blowback on social media versus what happened to Mohammed Khalil. God, really. And rarely the people concerned with the former respond to the latter. Yeah. So Mohammed Khalil was the immigrant who I believe he was an immigrant, but he was a pro-Palestinian activist who Trump is still trying to deport, right, babe? I think to like Syria or Lebanon. I think that's right. But yeah, like we're gonna call cancel culture like Steve and Brittany are no longer friends, and that's cancel culture. But oh, Drew says might have been a student with a visa. Oh, that's right, right at Columbia, I believe. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're canceled because, like, a friend is no longer friends with you, but you're not canceled because the country you were living in rejects you, makes you unsafe, wants to send you back to a war zone. Um, he's going through appeals in Philly. Okay, yeah. Yeah, the cancel culture thing, man, it's like it's hard to get your head around and, form like a I guess my mind is always trying to form, like, coherent advice sentences, like, what are my little rules gonna be for myself that I'm going to operate in that make me a consistent, ethical human being? And, obviously, people, when they're talking about cancel culture, are responding to seeing something. So you wanna have something in your head. You wanna have a standard. Um, there's the real victim of cancel culture, Abigail Schreier. Oh yes, it's so true. When she was on Joe Rogan, his staff actually rebelled, like went to I forget what platform he's on, but went to the top of his platform and were like, this lady is like bonkers and going to really fuck up trans kids' lives. And he just overruled them. He overruled all of them. It was like 10 staffers or something. And when she came back on his show again, um, she was like, "Oh, I'm surprised you're having me back after all of that stuff happened." And he's like, "Yeah, they were all just wrong. They're just all wrong. They're wrong. They're not brave. They're not brave like we fuck you." Like the presumption that every person who disagrees with you just hasn't looked into it. Just 100% of the people on the other side like didn't crack the footnotes. And let me tell you about these footnotes. If anybody wants to go back and see my spreadsheet, like going through these footnotes was a fucking romp because they're just so bad. And it was sort of reassuring because when you're criticizing someone, it was evident I would be criticizing her as I was reading this. I automatically first want to assume they're sincere. Um, and so I started from she's sincere. And then, man, by the time I got to those footnotes, I was like, fuck you, lady. What are you doing? This is manipulative. Like, oh, I'm thinking of one footnote that said, like, that she was referring to, a lesson plan and she said, like, basically that the lesson plan was going to turn kids on their parents, and then there's this footnote, and then I had to go find the lesson plan and everything. The lesson plan didn't even mention parents. The lesson plan was like, little Billy Joe wears a superhero coat to school, and then he gets bullied, and then this happens, and it's all allegory. So she abstracted from the allegory that we are talking about parents, and that is bad, and it is, like, brainwashing the children. Come on. Come on. Can you speak a little on how little Stryer allows the children in therapy or young people transitioning? Speak so little to them. Oh, yes, thank you, babe. I think that was Rue. Uh, yes, this is crazy. Like, uh she acts like she has these sources that are the children. She doesn't. She has sources that are parents and organizations that represent parents. That's fine, but then, like, that's the language you should be using. She's acting like she has investigated these children's lives, and all of the stories are, well, not all, but definitely most of the stories are through the parent. And when she does interview someone under 18, she also just uses this really dismissive language. Like, Drew, you pointed this out, that there was one young woman she interviewed, and she describes her as on the giggly edge of womanhood. She's like 16. I was like, is this the Sound of Music? Why are we talking about someone like this? It just like seems to sort of set you up to disrespect her own subject, the person who, is like at the center of this drama. And I really, it, I found myself thinking about the Salem witch trials. I found myself thinking about like the way young girls end up like at the center of the drama without being able to knock on the door and say, "Can we tell the story of the drama? Are we? Hello, what about us?" Um, and most of it in this is about young girls. In Irreversible Damage, she's talking mostly about, she would say young girls, but people assign female at birth. But yeah, she clearly has this bias. She also, like, clearly has a bias toward older men, seeing older men as very wise, very intelligent, probably having the emotional depth the rest of us don't have. So if we're all feeling too worked up, but the old man in the room says, "No, no, calm down. I've got control." Well, you should listen to him. If that works for you, kid, man, that would give me the most anxiety in the world. Just what? Go back to my Scrabble game and let the old guy take charge? No, 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 no. Abigail Shire and I will never hang out if that's the system. What else? She talks about how her father-in-law insists on teaching her kids how to drive when they're really young. They're like, I want to say she said one of the kids was 9, and one was 11, I think. And he like insists on taking them to the back roads of his farm and making them drive his truck. And then Abigail's initial reaction to this is like terror, which seems appropriate. She's the mother. And then she just talks herself out of it. She's like, and then I think about the olden days and how they used to do different things, and everyone used to be more adaptive to danger. And I'm just like, you just bend over. Like, if a man wants something, you just figure it out. You'll write a whole book to figure it out. That's how it seems to me. Um, yeah, I wonder who the man was. Who's this dedicated to? To my mother and father and Zach. Always Zach. Yeah, that's her husband. So the other one, I think the other one is dedicated to a child. No, I think that one's dedicated to Zach too. She writing books to impress a boy. That's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. Don't write books to impress boys. See this guy? He wasn't even going to impress the American Empire. He could be like this. I'll be like this. You know what I mean? Uh, Anybody else read any of this? Anybody else want to comment on books in general? Anybody else want to talk about footnotes. Fact checking. What else came up as I was reading this? Oh, so has anybody had an immigration experience? God, I feel so displaced from the immigrant experience. Like, I just have almost no concept of what that's like. Um, hmm. Can I speak on how Schreier obfuscates source motive? Drew, that sounds right, but my mind is drawing up a blank to what example you're pulling for. If you want to say more. I'm not sure. Obfuscate source. Like why the source is speaking to her, I assume. Trying to think of a good example of that, Drew. Yeah, tell me what you're thinking of if you remember. Um, Shoot, what was I saying? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a good thing I can just keep talking. I think one source was the head of an interest group. Oh, that was like anti-vax as well as anti-school unions. That's true. Yeah, so there will be people that she'll sort of set up as experts, and that word doesn't have a clear definition, so fine. But what I'll find out she means by it is yeah, a person who's sort of like involved in an interest group in that area. Oh yeah, Parents for Liberty. Yeah, so it'll be like, as an example, she'll say, child development expert Susan told me blank. And then when I get all the way to the end of the book and see, oh, thanks to Susan um, Barkman, and then I go look up Susan Barkman, it turns out like, oh, she has these like deep right wing ties to all of these interest groups that are trying to push these different agendas. Um, and I just want to say that can't automatically be discrediting. When people are interested in things, they form interest groups. But to not say that's how the source came to you, yeah, I think is like really misleading. There are so many ooh, in the acknowledgments, like I highlighted so many people that I was like, oh God, and this person, you all talked to Abigail Schreier, did you? Um, ugh, ugh. Sorry about her husband. In an important sense, my life began the day I met Zach. He read every draft and improved every idea in this book and steered me right. Ugh. Ugh. Babe, please don't steer me right on every sentence I write in a book. Just tell me if I get something wrong. Um, yeah, American Enterprise Institute I see in here. They're a big right-wing group. Christopher Barden, that's really interesting. He's an anti-satanic panic guy. Um, I once talked to him on the phone. My God, he called me, and that guy will just pop off. He'll just give you 90 minutes just right there. He thinks of you, and he has 90 minutes of stuff to say to you, and you don't need to talk back. You can just listen. Um, but yeah, he's really a character. It's interesting. I wonder in what way he aided her. The satanic panic people are like a real wild card here, right? Because some of them see everything in terms of social contagion and panic, and that's just like their primary worry now, right? If satanic panic is your special interest, that's gonna be one of your primary worries. Um, but your special interests can enlighten things and they can lead you astray. Um, Other people who liked this book, um, I mean, some of them are big names. Caitlin Flanagan, staff writer at The Atlantic. Gerald Posner, the author of Pharma. Um, Someone from Harvard. Elizabeth Gaufberg, associate professor of medicine and psychiatry at Harvard. Beth Loftus, not too surprising, in some ways. and Richard McNally at Harvard. I mean, she was able to get, like, some big names to do these blurbs. I asked, uh I asked both McNally and Loftus about it, and Loftus kind of admitted that she didn't thoroughly read the book. Um, I think McNally just didn't answer, if I recall correctly. He also wouldn't talk to me about autism. What else? What else? 8 minutes left. Does anyone want to give a monologue about their favorite land animal? You would scroll up to the top and you would click, like, join the thing if you wanted to. Or maybe you want to ask me a question. Or maybe you want to look out my window. Do you want to look out my window? Okay. In my window. We got a pride flag. We got, can you see that? Arthur Miller. Marjo. What else we got? Truman Capote. Kind of rearranging a little. There's my diplomas. My diplomas have come in handy in the last couple of weeks with Diana. Anything else? Oh, I cannot find the button to join. See? 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 I knew it. I'm not allowing anybody to join, and now I've gone on for 53 minutes. Wait, okay, don't disable video. The Substack user interface is bad, says Drew. Well, it's a good thing I could talk by myself for 90 minutes if I needed to. I could just free associate. Gabby Wendy does that on her podcast. It's a great effect. It's impressive. She'll just keep talking. She just starts talking and she keeps talking. Maybe I'll talk about what's over here. Actually, babe, would you object to me just really quickly saying what this is, babe? Just as a teaser. I'm gonna guess that there is a, please, okay, good. See how this says Love Boat primary sources? This is crazy. So Geraldine Saunders, who wrote the Love Boat's memoir that became The Love Boat, she died in 2019. And Drew and I went to her estate sale. It was the last day of the sale. And oh, sorry, I will read that in a sec. It was the last day of the sale, and everything had been totally picked over, and they were like desperate to sell everything. And so I went in and I went into the dead back end of her closet in her bedroom, past a bunch of garments and bullshit. And I find all of her original letters. What? What? And she had this tumultuous love affair with a man named Albert Decker, who died a really mysterious death. And a lot of these letters are between her and him. So Drew and I have gotten completely obsessed with her and with reading all of these and kind of trying our best to understand what happened to Albert Decker. And then why, like, this woman with this fascinating life, this fascinating, very dramatic life, felt the need instead to make this sort of saccharine, shallow version of her own life, which I don't know. I think that's really, really interesting that, like, I don't know, if you trade your art up long enough, eventually you're kind of hitting bottom again as far as quality goes. Not to say that The Love Boat isn't quality. It is quality. That's what's so great about it. It goes through the floor and through the roof, and then you're there with it, and you're hanging above space, unsure what's good or bad anymore, but you know that you're having a good time. You know? That's what The Love Boat is for all of us, I'm pretty sure. Albert has his mouth hanging open, I think, about the sources. I know. I know. I I got so into this for, like, probably, like, 9 months where, like, all I was obsessed with was figuring this out. I even went to the apartment where Albert Decker died and, like, found the current resident and made him take me to the bathroom. He was really nice about it. He did it. He was like, "Yep, the Albert Decker thing. Yeah, one of you shows up every few years. Yeah, come in here, you weirdo." Yeah. So you too could get obsessed with weird shit, and then have decade-long projects about them. Wouldn't that be fun for you? What else? What else? I'm not leaving. There's 3 minutes left of book club. I'm not doing it. No one knows where the button is to join, and that's exactly as it should be. Not really, but that's okay. These are the 2 books we have discussed so far. We had surprise celebrity guest Drew Spears, who preferred, and this is wild, he really liked this one. The one that's about an actual problem. And then he didn't prefer this one as much. I think I feel the same way. But I would be 30% delighted if someone in the chat's like, "Actually, I'm here because I love bad therapy and I hated one day everyone will have always been against this." If I had to deal with that in the last 2 minutes, I'd be a little bit excited about it. So please feel free to let me know if you're here. Um, Anybody else tried what are these? The jelly beans from Starburst. The Starburst jelly beans. I think they have the best flavors. They have apple. You see that green, you think it's gonna be lime. Wrong. Apple. Hey G, what's up? I'd say you could join, but we don't know where the button is. This is a great book club. Like, everybody has spoken equally. We heard about everyone's life. We heard everyone's thoughts on the books. No one dominated. I don't know. I think it was ideal, really. Well, it's 1:59, and that means that book club ends in 1 minute. What should I tell you in the 1 minute, knowing that you can't push the button? There is a far, far better way to find a truthful poet in the foreground of an exchange with the waters of fortune. But if you live in the what books might be next? One thing I want to say about Good Book is the part about the currency of fear really grabbed me. I've been thinking about it ever since. Oh, the currency of fear. Yeah, isn't that true? Especially in like an attention economy. Fear drives attention, right? We think of our attention as static, and we think of ourselves as in control of it until we have an emotion, and then emotions surprise us and scatter our attention. Um, what books might be next? Great question, Drew. Drew, is it? I I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I feel like I can ramble more about a bad book, but if we're able to let people in, I think they're going to want to talk about the good book. Um, So I want to, I'll get a little feedback on this. I think I'll jump into the chat. I'll get some feedback on like what worked for people, what didn't, whether they were trying to get in or if they just wanted to hang back anyway. And then I think that'll inform my choices. I think that'll help. Absolutely, says Albert. Thank you, Albert. Thanks for sticking around, buddy. Albert is someone who has emerged from the Substack to become a friend. He's such a lovely dude. Okay, we're at 2:01. Sorry, Matt Hayward, you just joined. But this recording will be up, and then I will be in the chat to chat a little bit about what comes next. Okay, thanks guys. Have a good day. Bye, Matt.